Hello and welcome to The Natural View. I'm Maggie Jacqua. I'm the content director of Whole Foods Magazine, and I'm here with my co-host Todd Polly of 24 Stories Marketing. Hey, Todd.
Hey, Maggie, good to see you.
Great to see you. And before we start rolling camera, I said I have two of my favorite people here. We have Todd and we have the wonderful Jeffrey Burke. Welcome, Dr. Burke.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
So glad to have you here. So Dr. Burke is the Director of Education for Kokora Life, as well as a naturopathic practitioner. And he has, for over 40 years, hosted a national radio show. He's interviewed just some of the best of the best of the best in the industry, leading experts in health and nutrition. And now he's continuing that work as the host of the Honest Health with Jeffrey Burke podcast, of which I was honored to be a guest. So thank you for having me on that.
Of course. It was wonderful. You're a great host. You're a great guest. It was wonderful. Easy fits.
Thank you. So much love. We got a lot of love here today.
I have to go back and see. I have to check out this podcast. I haven't seen it yet.
It was. Yeah. Got to check it out. Got to check it out. I mean, seriously, like he's interviewed like a hoot, not me, but other people like the who's who of the industry. It's very, very cool.
Oh, very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So we want to find out a little bit more about your background. And as I said, 40 plus years, 45 years in the industry, so much wisdom you've gained. So we want to kind of pick your brain and get some of that knowledge and help spread it around. So let's just start by talking a little bit about your background and how you got started in the industry.
Well, I've been interested since I was very young. My grandmother was kind of an herbalist in her own way, and she was one of those people that always had a pot of bone broth brewing on her stove and would pick the dandelions and brew up tea and things like that. And I was always interested on being on more of the holistic side, and I started when I was very young in Los Angeles with Dr. Earl Mindell, who wrote the Vitamin Bible. That was our one and main guide, of course, in like 1980. And I just kind of progressed from there. He made a mistake and gave me a microphone one time, and I never gave it back. And I love what the industry has done. We've come from a time when we were definitely the outsider, and it was an uphill battle so many times over the years. And now I find myself lecturing with doctors and counseling doctors and helping to get them hold on to their health as long as they can. And it's just a completely different world. And this industry has just been a metamorphosis to see the growth and where we've gone and what we've developed and what's been discovered. And I don't think we're anywhere close to where we're going to be, but it's just wonderful to be along for the ride and to be able to see where we were, where we are, and where we're going.
Wow, that's great. And, as we talk about that journey and where you are today, you've partnered with Kokora, right, to do some work around the regenerative movement.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about what that is? Maybe why you got involved? I'm curious there, and then maybe a little bit about the work you're doing.
I would love to. I was part of the organic movement decades ago when organic was really starting to be the thing to do. And if it fit your budget, do everything organic. And it was a time when we were definitely talking about all the things we did not want on our crops, like pesticides and chemicals. And it was a time when the soils were well tended to, and you were able to actually get a lot more nutritional value from organic. And it was more expensive, but you were actually getting more out of it. Well, here we are, 40 some years later, and organic is still something that people gravitate to, but probably not for the same reasons we did before. We still don't get the chemicals and the pesticides and all that, but the soils have changed, and the soils are not rotated like they should be or as much as they could be. We're not really having the nutritional value being that much better than traditional vegetables and fruits. So you still get the things you don't want, but you're really not getting a lot of that extra nutrition that we used to. So regenerative is kind of like the new organic, if you will, movement. Regenerative is not as much about the crop, although at Kokora, we do follow the growth standards down in Costa Rica on the farm down there. We do follow the organic standards because we're certified organic, but we also are certified regenerative. And regenerative really has to do with the idea of protecting and giving back and supporting the soil. And making sure that the soil is well tended to, so that at that point you're able to not only get better value, better yields for your growth of your crops, but you're also able to get more bang for your buck, if you will, because, we're living at a time right now when the population is continuing to grow and escalate around the world. And we're going to have to do something, not only to protect the environment and to be able to grow healthier crops, but we have to tend to the planet as well. People say to me all the time, are you one of those tree huggers? And I said, well, not really. I said, I don't hug trees, I don't wear patchouli, and I don't have beads on my doorways. But I love a tie-dye shirt, and I love being able to do something and give something back. So I found out that Rick Scalzo, who had founded Gaia Herbs many years ago and made such an incredible statement in this industry, had left Gaia and gone down and bought this beautiful farm down in Costa Rica. And he is growing these amazing crops down there, and they're beautiful and they're healthy. They get 9 months of rain down there, so everything grows well. And they're following now certified regenerative growth agricultural standards, which means, cover crops, covering in between the crop, and no tilling and rotation and no chemicals, and, doing all the right thing, helping to draw good carbon out of the air down into the soil, which is wonderful for the planet. So luckily we connected, and my really good friend Cindy connected us, and we did an interview, and I left where I was and I came on board here, and we launched the first 5 products in September, which are 5 adaptogen powders. And next year we've got close to 40 veggie cap formulas and single regenerative herbs coming next year. So I'll be traveling, training, lecturing all over the country, which I love to do, and and doing podcast series just on the individual herbs. And I think it's going to be a wonderful journey. I really do. I think it's kind of like when health food stores started. I remember being in my first health food store in like 1980, and someone would walk in and say, I want to try one of those vitamin things. I hear they're pretty good. And, it was kind of a luxury at that time. And now it's become a necessity because of the state of health and our very poor choices that we've all made. And we're all guilty, myself included. But I think we're now at the point where organic is still very important, but regenerative, I think, is going to really start to take hold, because it's something we need to do on the planet. And I think what's interesting is a lot of people don't realize that a lot of things have changed over the planet in the last couple of years. And, just a quick kind of stat, soil erosion. They are now saying that we have about 60 years left to plant topsoil. Some say 30 years. They say that the insect populations now have declined by like 57% since 1989, and the bird populations have declined by a third over the last 10 years, and they're pointing their finger at pesticides. So we've got to do something. Whether regenerative is it or not, I think it could be a very big player in this role of making a change on the planet. I hope that helps.
Definitely some powerful science coming out, and I love to see it kind of growing. In fact, at Newtopia Now, that was one of the trends we spotted, just really seeing the regenerative organic taking off. So that's a wonderful thing to see. But I wanted to ask you.
It's very exciting. It's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned your tour of the country, and I have been amazed. So anybody who doesn't follow Dr. Burke on social media, or LinkedIn specifically is where you talk about all the stores that you're visiting, you are everywhere. You have been all over the country in the past few months talking to all the independents. And I love that, at Whole Foods Magazine, we're really focused on the independents.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to kind of explore that a little bit. Maybe, some of the takeaways from going across the country. You've been in this industry so long. What are you seeing from the independents in terms of, maybe trends that they're seeing, or any takeaways that you've had from your journey all over the country?
Well, I think our industry has changed. I think education in some instances has been put on the back burner, and I'm very saddened by that. And the reason I am is because the first line of defense for all of these companies that are making these beautiful products is having people in stores that are educated. And in stores, I mean by brick and mortars. I mean the mom and pops, the small chains, the individual stores that are the driving force who built this industry. And I try to recognize, one of these stores every month as my retailer of the month on my podcast, because I think people need to be called out for the work that they're doing and thanked, because they could be doing things that other people might say, I never thought about that. What a great idea. We can do that here. People want to learn. People want to be educated. The internet has been, I say, a double-edged sword. It's been both effective and harmful at the same time, because it's given if you're looking for something, you can find someone to agree with you on the most ridiculous thing somewhere. somebody will agree with you. So the thing is, we spend a lot of time today not just training, but retraining minds from bad information that's gotten out there from maybe some bad actors or some people that are really not thinking the end result, that you're giving somebody information that they may use and they may miss the good information because they're following the bad information. And I like to correct that. I think that the pandemic did one good thing for us. It made people more aware. It let people know that the immune system is not something that's on a calendar. It just goes November to February. It's something we need to work on all year long. I think that a lot of people decided that they wanted to go back to somewhere and talk to people they could trust, have a conversation, find out what's available, because we have this box out there and everybody tries to put everybody in these boxes, and not everybody's the same. It happens a lot with medications. It happens a lot where they try to put everybody on the same thing, and everybody's different lifestyles, different choices, different histories, different habits. So I think that the health food stores have really seen an influx of people coming back and wanting these one-on-one about me conversations. It doesn't matter how it's working for everybody else. Can it work for me? What can I do that will make me better and healthier and more vibrant and give me some of my health back? So what I'm seeing as I'm traveling are customers that are, I guess, really hungry for knowledge. They really want to learn. They really want to be able to bring some of this back. And I'm seeing it in the medical establishment as well. I do so many conversations with doctors, and they're asking about themselves and about their spouses and their families and their friends, because not everybody really wants to go the pharmaceutical route. It has its place, but it doesn't mean it's the only route.
Well, it's great to hear that the medical establishment is being more open-minded as well. I wanted to ask you while we're on the retailer topic. So obviously we just had the anniversary of Deshay.
Yes.
And you were on the scene when everybody was coming together with advocacy, and those efforts were so huge. We did, Jay Jacobowitz, our merchandising editor from Retail Insights, he did a series and he talked to retailers and associations and companies about the state of advocacy. And it was interesting what he was hearing from the retailers, because it was like, the passion is there, but the time is an issue, and just kind of the bandwidth to be able to get more involved in the industry. So I was just wondering if you had any insights on that, or just any inspiration to help us stay engaged and involved in advocacy, because there's so much going on right now with our industry.
There really is. There's a lot of very positive things going on. We still have outside battles that, I think we'll perpetually be arguing with and fighting on. I think the biggest problem that I found out there is a lot of people that are in the industry now may not have been around when Deshay was brought into an existence. And because, like all things, out of sight, out of mind, because it's not getting as much focus as it should be getting, and people are not maybe applying those values because they should and they need to. Sometimes it gets really easy to go around it, and it's easy to have a conversation and then just say something that you shouldn't be saying. And I've done it. I mean, I bit my tongue so many times, I'm surprised I can talk, because it just comes out in conversation, it just rolls off your tongue. Then you have to back yourself up and say, okay, we need to restate that in a way that, we want to follow the protocol, and there's a fine line there, of being able to give information. But I think sometimes I hear conversations that are out there and I think to myself, ooh, got to be careful with what people are saying, because if someone's really in a desperation stage or a state of frustration or fear, they're going to maybe grab onto something that may have been stated incorrectly. So I think that one of the things we should do, I think it's a great idea for stores to have a Cliff Note cheat sheet of Deshay available. And when a new employee comes on, they need to read through it, sign off on it. And I think that all of us old dogs that are out there in the field, we need to revisit it, because there's so much information to learn. It amazes me how I hit this point every once in a while and think to myself, okay, I know it. No, I don't. And then I got to go back and start reading it and cross. And they say you forget more than you remember, which is, I'll tell you what, at this age, it is so true. So you have to kind of keep revisiting. And Deshay is something that really gives us the parameters to work within, both legally, but also constructively. and it keeps us all on the same page. But I think the problem with it is I think a lot of us have a tendency to maybe not give it the focus that it needs because of maybe just not knowing, maybe naiveness, and maybe we've just forgotten. But I thank you for revisiting it in the anniversary year and making it visible, because I think that that's really important. And I think some of us that are out here doing the talking, we probably need to be stressing it more as well.
Yeah, true, true. Dr. Burke, you've been around for 40 plus years, and I think a lot of times, and I've been around a quarter of that, so nowhere near close to that. But in my time, and I'm guessing yours, if you're in the industry and you're always advocating for the industry, and kind of fighting the good fight from that, especially when things come up and you tend to focus, at least in my mind, on what challenges are ahead. Having said that, I think sometimes it's easy to lose sight on all the good. We were just talking with Steve Mister from CRN the other day on the podcast, and they do their survey. And, the fact when you see the number that 3 out of 4 consumers surveyed take supplements every day, it's part of their daily routine, it really reinforces the fact that there's so much good in the industry and so much going on in terms of positives. And I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind taking just a quick step back through your 40 plus years and give us, what are a couple of those experiences you had in the industry or a couple of projects you might have worked on that are real highlights for you?
And thank you for your question. I think it's wonderful. I just want to add one thing to it. I think that we do this in life in general. I think we have a tendency to focus on the negatives and the obstacles and the speed bumps and the hurdles. Mm-hmm. And I was having a conversation a couple months ago, and it was one that I had many years ago. And it was a woman that had called in and was chatting with me, and I was doing another show. And she said, I just got so much going on. I just feel like I haven't done anything. And I said, you need to do, walk through your house and look in every single room and look at everything that you have built and created. And think about all the things that you have done and make a list of all the accomplishments you had. So she called me up a couple of days later and she goes, I want to thank you. She said, I had forgotten all the good that I had done because I couldn't see the field for the trees, whatever. She said, and it reminded me of all the wonderful things I'd done. So now these obstacles, she goes, I'll deal with them more effectively. I think it's the same thing in the industry. I mean, I love the idea that so many people take supplements every day. Now, to that side, the side note is, are we taking them now because we've learned more, and want to be better? Or are we taking them because we're messed up so bad along the way that now we're trying to play catch up and trying to fill the cracks and the crevices that we created by our own choices and our own hands? I guess it doesn't matter because you're still on board. But I love what has happened in this industry. I love that the openness of herbs being used as nutritional supplements rather than just medicine. Because you got to remember, the philosophy on herbs was it was used as medicine for specific situations. Now we're using herbs every day for overall maintenance and good health. I love the idea that minerals have become as important as vitamins. They used to be kind of left on the back burner. Now minerals are upfront and personal, for everything from skeletal health to nerves to muscles to organs. We're learning a lot. I love that. I love the idea that functional mushrooms are finally finding their place in our industry, because around the world they're used and they're like a first line of defense. But over here, I got to tell you, this has been an uphill battle with mushrooms for the last 15 years. People are like, I love them on my pizza. I use them at the salad bar. No, it's not what we're talking about. But now functional mushrooms are being looked at as a good mainstay and something that can make a difference in our life. I love that information has made things so dramatically better. I love that social media has been part of the escalation process of information and popularity, although you have to sift through the information to find the best of the best. But because I progressed, when I started in radio, they used to drop a needle on a record for 3 minutes. That was your break. And then you went to an 8-track, and then we went to a cassette, then we went to an MP3, then we went to a disc, and now everything is wireless. So that was a huge transition. And then they offered me something called streaming, which was where people around the world could tune into your radio show from Las Vegas. That was huge. And now podcasting, people can listen when they want to. They can listen, they can watch. How fantastic on their time schedule, where before you'd have to sit in front of the radio or have it on in your car to be able to hear a show. And if you missed it, you missed it. So that's been a huge thing for information and education in our industry. And I think that a lot of us that are really, learning and trying to teach and educate, those have been amazing tools. And then we have breakthroughs, things like melatonin. I remember when it came out, it was huge. Ginkgo biloba. I remember when fish oil started its run, CBD, a couple of years ago, that came in like a wrecking ball, so there's been amazing amounts of things that have come out. And I think it's an industry right now. If you're starting right now in the industry and you're going to work in a health food store, you are walking into a candy store of amazing possibilities and available nutrients that were nowhere close when we first started. I mean, when I first started, we didn't have anything called super anything. We had no computer, no phones. We had very few authors that we listened to and read. We had nothing. If you wanted to do research, my first 20 years on the air, I had to go to the library and read research books just to get information to do a show because there was nothing else. Today, we have so much at our fingertips. I just hope that people will prioritize themselves and their own individual health, use the tools that have been created for you, and never forget to visit a mom and pop health food store and ask questions and create a relationship, because that's one of the biggest tools we have.
I absolutely love that. Love all of that. I wanted to ask you, while you were talking about things that you've seen emerge. Now, I know we have the shroom boom. Todd and I have covered this, the shroom boom. Anything else emerging on the horizon that has you excited?
Well, I think that regenerative definitely is hugely rising, and I think it's going to create a gigantic category that is going to bring both awareness and quality and credibility to our industry once again. Individual herbs, beside functional mushrooms, ashwagandha and turmeric are just killing it out there. And I think a lot of it has to do with the literature and information that goes on with both of those, with the categories that they're servicing and working with within our health and well-being. I think those are doing amazing. Getting back to basics, with a good, strong, potent multiple vitamin with quality nutrients. I also think that probiotic category has been, when I first started with that, you had liquid. We had a liquid acidophilus. That was all there is. And today, I'll never forget the day I walked into the store and we got a bottle and it said 50 million biological bacteria. I'd never seen the million on anything before. So it was like huge. And like 5 years later, it was like a 3.5 billion. And I'm like, oh my Lord, this is just huge. And everything had to be refrigerated. I remember traveling and getting to my hotel and taking my probiotics out, putting in my refrigerator, or putting them on a thing of ice and changing the ice so they stayed cold, and traveling and packing them last and getting home and getting them in the refrigerator. And all of a sudden, shelf-stable probiotics came out. And I'm like, oh, what a gift. What a gift. I don't have to refrigerate these and I don't have to be worried about losing the activity. But I think that's a humongous category. And with brain and gut and immune and all those other categories, probiotics I don't think it's even come anywhere close to peaking.
Yeah, it's been exciting to watch that whole category emerge and see how much is controlled from the gut and how much we are still, I do feel like we're on this journey and we're at the beginning and there's more to come and it's exciting. And I don't know, have you had this in your experience where I also feel like consumers are along on that journey in a way that maybe they haven't with some of the other products out there? Because science, it feels to me like there's science always emerging, new research always emerging. We're learning more, but at the same time, it's hugely popular. Does that feel to you unique, or is that something that you've seen happen before?
I think that we have major categories of ill health in this country, and we have, systems that are there to kind of, sick care systems. I don't call them healthcare, I call them sick care. But we have categories, we have immune problems, we have degenerative bone and structural problems, we have mental health issues, we have immune problems, anxiety, depression, all these kind of things. These are big categories that are all over the country in all races, all economic groups, all demographics. We're seeing it across all age groups as well. So these categories are very strong because they're issues that people are trying to find support, maybe resolution, maybe just guidance. And I think that those categories kind of run parallel with a lot of the individual nutrients that have had published studies and things in some of these categories. And I think that they kind of join up together, and those categories seem to do extremely well, both popularly and also out of necessity, because they're hitting the categories of the biggest problems people have. I remember growing up that when I first started the industry, I don't think we would have ever talked to anybody about calcium till they were over 65. We just didn't. We didn't have younger people with osteoarthritis and bone and joint problems. We never talked about the word immune at the very beginning. Gastric problems, upset stomach, colitis, diverticulitis, all these. We never talked about any of that kind of stuff. And it was this older age group, the geriatric community, where a lot of these issues came out and visible. But there was a wall there, and everybody behind it were like, we got plenty of time. We're young. But that wall came down about 10, 15 years ago. And now these same health issues that were one-time geriatric are actually now throughout all age groups. I deal with people in their 20s that have older age health conditions, and they're young. So we have to point the finger somewhere. Is it lifestyle? Yes. Is it choices? Of course. Could it be genetic? Possibly. But I think it's more the lifestyle we choose, the choices we make, our diets. We don't balance our stress. We don't sleep. We know to move. We have very little movement. Most people are at desks and sitting at home. They're not up and moving like they were before. So I think these issues all run parallel, and people are like, they know what their complaints are. So they kind of reference that against the things that are available that they hope will help with those conditions. And I think that's what drives the popularity of those products.
And it is like all of what you're saying is like depressing and horrible, but it is, on the flip side, you see the younger people being so much more proactive.
Yeah,
is great. Thank goodness for that. Like they're aware, and like we used to say healthy aging, but now we call it active aging, and it's just moved so much younger of people kind of, trying to set it right or keep it right.
I do lectures, and I'll see older people that are there, and I see a lot of younger people, and I'll talk to them after. To your point, I'll just say, I'm so happy to see you guys. And they're like, I come from a family where everybody's sick and they've all got these conditions. I want to start a little earlier. Oh my God, that's just so exciting to me to see people taking responsibility at any age. I don't care if you're 90 and you start getting healthy today, you're not going to do anything wrong. It's only going to be good for you moving forward. But I think it's amazing that we have people that are now starting to actually think about and know that they have control over some of these things. They can make changes, and they can change the course of things. And just because they're genetic doesn't mean they always have to go down that path. I mean, they may find, like I go back to the Midwest and I see people that I grew up with that are still there, had their kids, grown their families, done everything, same footprints as their families and stuff. And they're having a lot of the same issues because they've lived exactly the same life. Now, not all of them, but some people that have left and gone and taken out a different viewpoint, they may be a little bit different, a little healthier, so it depends on how much time you want to put into it and how serious you are about being healthy. And there's sacrifices that have to be made, but I think they're always worthwhile.
Yeah, payoffs are significant, and the research increasingly proves it. So, all right. So I was just switching gears a little bit. I think anybody who's watching this can see that you're so busy, but you're also so positive, and you just radiate such a great energy. So I'm wondering, I see it on social media, you're always encouraging people and posting these great little comments to kind of take time for yourself and to find the bright spots. So I'm just wondering if you can share, any motto or any touchstone that you have that kind of helps you keep that positivity, even when you're, just go busy.
I lost a lot of people in the early 80s in Los Angeles. It was when AIDS broke. We lost a lot of people out there. People weren't prepared. A lot of younger people in their 20s and 30s. I've lost amazing friends over the years in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. And I think what has always been a driving force for me is there's no guarantees in life. You have to be able to take the time to celebrate as much as you possibly can, appreciate your life, appreciate your accomplishments, and appreciate all the people in your life that are always there. And that we don't think about until they're not. And there's this gigantic void. So my thing is, I try to tell people every day, you've got to you've got to take care of yourself. It's kind of like flying on a plane when they say if we hit turbulence and the oxygen masks fall down, you put your own on first and then put yours on the one people next to you that need support. I think we need to put our oxygen masks on ourselves and prioritize and pull ourselves off the back burner. It's very commendable, and kudos to the givers in the world. And I've found myself falling into this situation myself where I spread myself very thin, taking care of everybody around me in my world, and then I run myself down. So what I learned probably about 25 years ago is that what I have to do is I have to make sure that my own business is organized. I've got everything taken care of me, and then I've got plenty of me and a stronger me to be able to do the other things that I need to do. But we do forget. We forget to take time to breathe. We take time to do all the things that we have to do and all our engagements and our responsibilities. But when was the last time people actually, I hate to use this pun, take the time to smell the flowers, but it's true. When was the last time you took the time just to do something just for you? Take a 2-day trip by yourself. Take a day off when you just go out to the hills and go for a hike and do something where you're just servicing yourself. We don't do that. And then something happens, our health changes, and then we get to the point when we want to do that, and we may not be capable of doing it now. Because we let ourselves go.
Yeah. And the times I've been able to do that, I've found that not only is it, I hate to say regenerative, but, in this context, but also I find my mind start to work a little bit differently in terms of the thoughts I've had. And it's not just about the next deadline, the next responsibility, but you really give yourself a little bit of time to consider bigger picture, and creative juices tend to flow better, at least for me, when that happens. And I'll walk back from what I thought was, a day or so of not getting anything done, but taking time for myself. And all of a sudden, there are all these ideas, and it was way more productive than if I were to sit here at this desk and try to figure out whatever it was I came up with while we're going for a run through the woods or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
So I think our body worked and
It's so true. If you ever ask an adult that took off a weekend and did absolutely nothing and got nothing done, and you saw them on Monday morning, you say, "What did you do this weekend?" And they went, "Nothing." And they're smiling because they did nothing. They shut their brain down. They just did what they wanted to do. There was they may have some catching up to do. Who cares? You'll get it caught up. But that weekend of doing what you thought was nothing, to your point, recharging, and rebuilding and, rejuvenating the body. It's so important. And so many people don't take the time to do that. And I wish they would, because it's powerful and it's life sustaining and it's quality of life building. And it costs you nothing to do nothing for something, so.
I knew you were going to drop lots of gems on us. I'm already feeling rejuvenated. I'm already top.
Wonderful.
So we are about coming up to time, but just if you could leave us with what you see as bright spots for the industry as we head toward 2025, and then also anything on the horizon for you next year, in addition to what you've already told us about, that we can look forward to.
Well, we'll be real busy with Kokora Life next year, traveling around, doing a lot of lecturing. We have over 40 products coming out next year. Regenerative, we're able to use the Regenerative on the label because we're certified Regenerative now. And it's going to be wonderful. It's going to be an amazing journey. I'm going to get to do what I love, which is travel and talk and teach and train and educate and visit and create relationships and new friendships and touch base with people I've known for a long time and meet a lot of people that I haven't yet had the pleasure of meeting. That's going to be wonderful. My podcast is growing really fast. And I think it's going to be great. I'm broadening a little bit. I've got professional athletes and entertainers coming on there as well, because I want their behind the curtain information, what they do to do what they do as well as they do it. Maybe we can learn from it. Rick Scalzo and myself. Rick is the founder and the owner of Kokora Life, who I adore working with because I've never met anybody so incredibly passionate and loving and supporting and just knowledgeable. I suck every ounce of that up from him because he's just so wonderful to be around. His new mantra is live a regenerative life. And I think that really kind of sums it up. And that would be my goal for everyone next year when you're sitting down with your New Year's resolutions is choose things that are going to regenerate and are going to make your life better and more sustainable, eat a little better, be a little bit more active, drink a little bit more water, have a little bit more, if some, me time, and put yourself in a priority position, and never stop learning, because there's new studies. I can't tell you how many times I write in pencil now because I got tired of scratching out pen, because new technology, new studies, new medical things coming out, they're going to be updating forever. So give yourself that focus, and remember, you need to be your biggest fan. You need to pat yourself on the back, be your own marching band of one, and celebrate all the things that you do. And remember to make sure that you check in people around you. Mental health is a big issue right now. And if you haven't heard from somebody in a while, somebody's alone, please check in with them. I just did a podcast with Zach Williams about a week ago, Robin Williams' son, and we were talking about how mental health has become an amazing issue. And it's kind of like his mantra now. He's doing so much in that category. But we even talked about it, checking in with the people in your life, sometimes a shoulder, an ear, or just a friendly call-in, text, or check-in could be the huge difference in someone's life. So be that difference.
It's great.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's really just the best talking to you. We love it. We hope we'll see you at Expo West, I hope.
We'll be there. We got a booth. We'll be there on the main floor. So we're excited about that. And of course, I'll definitely come and see you.
All right. Thank you. And keep us posted as the new products come out and new podcast ventures. Just keep us posted, and we'll keep sharing the news in Whole Foods Magazine as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate both of you.